Chapter 15. Passage to the Castle. It happened just like the Oracle Fairy said. One of us got lost in our enemy's land. Mai started sobbing, falling down, and it was the first time I'd ever seen her cry. "You could have done anything, but you did this! This one thing I can never bear!" she wailed, thinking about Nyx, looking up. "What should we do? We have to do something!" Flame shouted. "Nyx is strong. I believe he's still out there," I said, trying to comfort them. I knew this was the fear she had to overcome, losing a very important person. We all stared at each other with panicked faces and had nothing to say. I felt myself not being able to digest the thought that Nyx was gone and how much I missed him already, and cried without making a sound. Mai wiped her tears and said sadly, "But we can't stop, can we? We always knew someone was going to get lost. Let's go." I have a crystal in my hand that looks exactly like the crystal we got once we entered the monster's mouth. She showed us an identical round yellow crystal. I opened my hand and noticed the original one was in my hand. I realized the one in Mai's hand was a fake, and it was an aid. "But how is this supposed to help us in our quest?" Hope asked sadly. Flame and I shrugged. I wiped away the tears. "Can we please just go?" Mai asked weakly. We picked her up and started heading deeper into the mouth. "I can't go in," I heard Flame's voice quiver. "It's too dark, and my fire powers are not working." If Nyx was here, it would have been weird to see Flame being a crybaby. But since Nyx was lost, the dull feeling of seeing even one of my strongest friends being weak had become normal to me. "Hey, I have an idea. How about we blindfold you and take you in? You aren't scared of being blindfolded, are you?" Hope asked sincerely, even though I could see she was exhausted from babysitting us. "I'll just close my eyes and pretend that I am doing a challenge. Thanks, Hope." Suddenly we saw a green fire and realized it was the aid from Flame. We used the torch to go further, and I was able to see light at the end of the cave mouth. "Guys, faster!" We started running into the portal, and 2 troll guards saw us. They stopped when they saw Flame. They started walking back and raised their hands. They looked terrified of the fire torch in Flame's hands. "Flame, they are scared of fire!" I shouted to him. He put the torch out in front of him and waved it. The guards ran away, shrieking. I would have laughed, but I remembered about Nyx. We landed on the stairs of the castle, and I heard a familiar voice scream. It was the voice of the Troll King. "This is exhausting," Hope moaned after climbing the stairs for what felt like hours. "Shh, that's the Troll King's voice," I hushed her. We tried to detect the voice, and once we saw him, we hid. He looked exactly like he had in my nightmare, with the black hair and gray eyes. "I was able to see them until they got their invisibility potion. Now I have lost track of them," he shouted at a servant troll, similar to the one I saw in my nightmare. I inched a little bit closer, causing me to fall out of our hiding spot. "Look who has joined the meeting, Dendalia Sparkleherbs," he sneered, giving me a piercing glare. I shuddered when I heard him talk to me. It reminded me of the nightmare. "Now be happy. You are going to be reunited with the people you have come searching for. Only if you give me the last gem of the fairies." "I will never give it up," I said, trying to sound confident by gathering all of my courage. "Take her," the Troll King said, swiping his arm at me, and left. The servant troll grabbed my hand and dragged me like I weighed nothing and took me into something that looked like a prison. To be honest, the whole castle looked like a prison. He opened a jail cell and threw me in. Luckily, I was caught by someone. I looked up to see who it was and saw the man I saw in my nightmare, with the copper hair and the same dark blue eyes as mine. "Dad?" My mouth dropped. "Dendalia?" he asked in return with a hoarse voice. "Quit dreaming, Willie," I heard a female voice say in a soft but harsh tone. "I am not dreaming, Petunia. She is here." His eyebrows raised, and he broke into an enormous smile. The lady I saw in my nightmare came towards me and touched my face. Immediately she pulled me into an embrace and hugged me tightly. I didn't know if I would cry from happiness or sadness. "It is my baby!" she cried. "Mom?" "Yes, I am your mother. You look so grown up. The last time I saw you, you were a little baby in my arms." "Mom, I am on a quest," I said. It felt strange to say those words, as I have never told anyone. "A quest? For what?" she questioned, frowning. "For you and the crystals. Grandma told us to go to the Oracle Fairies, and we got a message about going on a quest to save you and restore the crystals in Fairyland. They informed us to travel to the troll world to search for you. We followed their message, used an invisibility potion, and then we defeated a sea serpent to enter the castle. Then we came into the castle, and the Troll King found me, and here I am, in the prison." "What? My mom let you do this? It is not safe for a 15-year-old to do these things." My mom was outraged. I couldn't believe she was already scolding me after she knew we survived almost a week in the troll world, battling monsters. "No, it was the Oracle Fairies," I protested. "We couldn't go back, and if we did, a storm would appear out of nowhere," I explained. "This is my quest, and if I hadn't done these things with my friends, we wouldn't even have met." They both glanced at each other. "I can't believe our daughter is so grown up. She's talking like she is a fairy spy. I remember you just as a little baby, and we couldn't get to see you grow. So I have always thought about you as a little child, but we have to move forward too." She laughed nervously with tears in her eyes. She swiped them away, and my father mirrored her. "We need to get out of here. There must be a way," I told them, standing up and clenching my fists. "I believe there is no way. We have been here for 15 years. Wouldn't we know by now?" My mother mumbled. Her clothes were tattered, similar to my father's. That reminded me of a question. "Do you know the reason you are in prison?" We heard footsteps by the cell. "Yes, the king believes that we have the last crystal." Dad winked. "So we were supposed to have the gem, but I only received it now." "But Dad, why would he think we have the gem?" I played along. "I don't know why, dear." I just missed my chance to get that information. "Dandalia!" I heard familiar voices call me. "Yes? My Hope Flame?" I called, pressing my body against the cell walls. "I'm here with my mom and dad." "Oh, you found your mom and dad!" Hope squealed with joy. "Cool," Mai said in a dry voice. My thoughts went back to Nyx, and I sighed, hoping he was still out there, safe. "Well, let's escape that stinky prison cell now." Flame waved a hand in front of his nose and rushed us. "How are we supposed to do that?" I asked. "Nyx!" I heard Mai shout with delight. "Nyx?" "Mai!" Nyx exclaimed. "Nyx?" I rubbed my eyes and looked at him again. "You actually came back?" "Of course I am back," he said in a confident voice. "How did you do it?" Flame raised his eyebrows and then turned to look at the person standing next to Nyx. "Good evening, Miss Rosy Herbs." "Grandma, you are here too?" We locked glances. "Mom!" My mother jumped up and cried. "Yes, we'll explain how we got here later. Right now we have a troll to defeat." Grandma's face fell when she saw Mom and Dad in the ragged prison clothes, but she kept her head straight, unflinching. "But Grandma, he is watching us right now. We can't discuss any plan," I said. "Oh no, dear. I know my magic. I put a pretty good spell that will stop him from eavesdropping." "Can you start with unlocking us from the cell, please?" My dad couldn't stop shaking from excitement. "Hold on, I have an idea. Nyx and Mai will make a huge rock together that we can use to break this lock." They got to work immediately, and in minutes we were free. "Oh, I got my magic back." My dad danced around and hugged my mother. "Wait, you didn't have magic in the prison?" I widened my eyes. His face turned serious. Of course, if we had magic, then we would have escaped a long time ago. The king took us to this unique cell, and it took out our magic. Okay then, let's discuss our plan to defeat the Troll King. Hold on a second. Nobody is going to defeat nobody. My mother grabbed my hand and started going to the prison exit. Mom, let go of me! I tried to free myself. This quest was for us, and you got us. You don't need to fight anybody. But Mom, this is our quest! I cried out. Let me go and do my job! She stopped in her tracks and looked at me angrily. Why do you want to defeat this Troll King? Your father and I have created numerous plans to break out of the cell and get rid of him, but it never worked. How can I expect a young 10-year-old to... Mom, I'm not 10, I'm 15, and for the millionth time, it's our quest. The Oracle Fairies told us. The king wants the last fairy crystal, and we won't let him have it this time. We'll restore all the crystals of fairyland. Well, don't you worry about it then. Your dad, grandma, and I will take care of him. Fully trained adult fairies. But all of you are just healing fairies. What are you going to do, huh? Heal him? I snapped, but then I instantly wished I could take the words back. She gasped, looking hurt, and released my hand. I rubbed my sore hand and mumbled, Please, Mom, just trust us. We'll live together, peacefully again. She nodded, but I knew she didn't want to, and I realized the others had been watching us like we were a tennis match. What's your plan? Flame joined the conversation. The Troll King will ask us for the crystal once we go outside, or he will say he will harm us. Flame, Mai, and I will trick him with the fake crystal, and Flame will blast fire to scare him. I will use a protection bubble if he uses it against us. Meanwhile, Dad, Hope, and Nyx will go outside the castle with Flame's torch. I pointed at the torch in Flame's hands. After you guys go there, Hope will prepare the boat and get it as close to the castle window as possible. Nyx, you can navigate, and Dad can help steer. Grandma and Mom can sneak into his room and find out what he has planned. Sounds like a plan. Dad gave us a thumbs up. Mom took my hands and nodded. Dandalia, sweetie, you don't know how much I missed you all these past years. I will always love you. Just please come out of the battle safely. My eyes welled up with tears. I love you too, Mom. Hope, Nyx, and Dad ran in the direction we came from to find the exit. Mom and Grandma started searching for the Troll King's chamber. The rest of us waited for one of them to signal us. I felt a pat on my shoulder. 1 second, Flame, I said, holding a finger up. For what? He asked back, in a voice I didn't comprehend. I realized the person who patted on my shoulder wasn't Flame. I turned back and saw the Troll King. He started laughing. You think you can escape me? He moved to the side to show Mom and Grandma being held captive by the troll servants. No! We gasped in shock. Oh yes, he sneered. Long time no see, Grace. She turned her face, scowling. Now, give me the last gem. I let your mom and this old lady go. The troll cackled maliciously. Mai, can you give me the crystal? I said. She tossed me the fake crystal, and I held it out to the Troll King. He snatched it from my hand and let out a horrible laugh. I immediately started untying Mom and Grandma and let them free. Now give me the power I have always wanted. Turn me into a giant fairy, he bellowed. We pretended to shield our eyes and waited for the Troll King's reaction, as nothing was supposed to happen. He observed the yellow crystal, and his eyebrows shot up with revelation, turning his gruesome face at us. Flame, use your fire power now, I told Flame. He blasted a fire line separating us and the Troll King. King laughed once again. Ha ha! Did you think I'm a troll to be scared of fire? I was a bugnug who had no power, and I was just a servant. Grace knew me pretty well. His voice became bitter. Every fairy in the school mocked me except Grace. We were good friends, but I knew I had to show the other fairies I am actually more powerful than them. So I told these troll fools that I am their king, and they didn't believe me at first, but they had to. I took all of their magic and kept it as my own, saying that the fairies took them, and their enemies are the fairies. He blasted a tremendously strong invisible force in our direction, and I summoned the protection bubble to block it. He reached into the bubble, and my throat went dry as he grabbed me out. I tried to resist, but I couldn't move. "Give me the real crystal!" he roared. "Never!" I yelled back, but my arm moved by itself and gave it to him as I was under his control. "Turn me into a giant fairy!" he repeated. Suddenly, a huge tornado swirled around him in the prison, nearly knocking me off the ground. The jail cell bars ripped from the strong wind and were flying at me. I stumbled back to my friends to get away from the disaster, scraping my knees painfully. "What are we going to do now?" I asked, gritting my teeth through the pain. I should have made a plan B. "Leave it to us." Mom rolled up her sleeves and ordered us to jump out of the window outside of the prison and fly to the boat. Flame, Maya, and I did as we were told and soon spotted the boat on the lake. We landed softly on it. Dad started flying once he saw us and dashed into the castle. "Wow, when did the adults even make Plan B?" Hope asked, looking up at the Troll King, who was now a giant fairy. His wings were an unusual dark color, and it lacked the sparkle we had on our wings. "I thought this was our quest." Flame folded his hands and looked down. "It is, and it is over. Remember the message of the Oracle Fairies? They said we will trick and bring something to its rightful place. We tricked the Troll King with the gem, but it never said we would defeat him." "What about bring it to its rightful place part?" Nyx questioned. "I am not sure about that," I shrugged. Suddenly the ground shook dangerously. The boat swayed and we had to fly up into the air to avoid being splashed. "Is this water like the one in the moat?" I asked Hope, referring back to the time we battled the sea serpent and some of our wings disappeared because of the special potion dissolved in the water. She tested it out on her wings and she shook her head. "It's normal water." "Darn, we could have used that to remove that jerk's wings," Nyx tisked. My eyes lit up. "I have an idea." "Nyx, do you know where the portal is?" I asked, hoping he would know. "Yeah, I do." He navigated us to the portal, and we crossed and found ourselves in the monster's mouth. It was still wide open, so we used it as a way out. "What are we going to do?" Flame asked. "Remember the vials we used for drinking the invisibility potion?" "Yeah," they replied with confusion as to why I reminded them of it. "Does anybody still have at least one vial?" "I think I do," Hope said, feeling her pockets and pulled one out. "Why do you even have that?" Flame smirked. "What? I like to collect vials," she blushed, looking embarrassed. "It's a good thing you did, Hope." I gave her a thumbs up. I poured a tiny portion of the water into the vial and went back through the portal. "Let's hope this works," I told the others. We hopped onto Hope's boat and signaled the adults to get on it. They flew in, sweaty and exhausted from trying to fight the unbeatable beast. I poured in water and saw the rest of the water turn dark and murky. The giant reached us and stepped into the water. Immediately, his wings disappeared and he shrank to the normal fairy size, falling from the sudden loss of magic. I knew this wouldn't last long as the fairy crystal magic he used was much more powerful. I ran towards him and placed my rosehop, the lavender herbs, on his heart, and I closed my eyes. I realized my wings had disappeared. I took a deep breath and filled my heart with happiness and love while painting a picture of the Troll King being nice to everyone in Fairyland and the Troll World. I imagined all the crystals being transported back to where they came from. With another breath, I thought of the fairies and the trolls making truce and living peacefully alongside each other. I heard cheering as I opened my eyes. I saw bright colors of red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, and pink magic shoot through the sky and disappear in a sparkle. I felt a surge of happiness and I clasped my hands together. "Those were the crystals! They left his body!" Mai said, a huge smile plastered on her face. We did it! We really did, everyone! Hope, Mai, and I hugged each other while the boys gave each other high fives. Wait, what's happening to him? Flame pointed at the bug nug lying in front of us. His hair had turned white, and the wrinkles that formed around his face revealed his true age. He fluttered his eyes open, and he gave us a warm smile. He almost looked like a stranger to me. Thanks for helping me understand, children. Chapter 16. To Marry Magic Pebbles. I'll show you the way back to Fairyland. The trolls will have their magic back, and they will attack the fairies, so we need to close the connection to the troll world and Fairyland. And I know just the person, Grandma smiled. Let's get on the boat, everybody, Hope exclaimed. Leah, I don't know what I can do for you anymore. Grandma shook her head. You can start with why our family had the last crystal, I suggested, my face beaming with pride. The others, except my parents, nodded in curiosity. Of course. Our ancestor was the fairy queen. She hid all the other crystals in safe places, and she could never find a place for the last crystal, so she gave it to her daughter and said, pass it on to your firstborn child. So it got passed down generation to generation like that. From me to your mom and to you now. She put the crystal on my palm and closed my hand around it. She hid the crystals because if it got in the wrong hands, something like this would happen? I asked. Yes. But how come he found out? My grandma gasped, and her eyes welled up with tears. He knew because of me. I showed him where the crystals were, but I never thought he could possibly turn evil. Oh, Grandma, none of this was your fault. How did you and Nyx find each other? Mai asked happily. Nyx only had half of a magical map. I sent it with you kids to track you with my other half of the map. One day it only showed me one of you, Nyx, so I knew he was lost, and traveled to the troll world and found him. He told me you were actually heading towards the castle, and we started searching everywhere with my invisibility spell on. She chuckled. Nyx and I made a great team. Thanks, Miss Rosie Herbs. Nyx grinned proudly. Who are we going to meet, Miss Rosie Herbs? Mai asked sincerely. Mary Magic Pebbles, Grandma said. Who is she? Flame asked while biting into a fruit that Nyx gave to each of us. She was an old friend of mine. Charlie, Mary, and I were great friends, but our connection didn't last after school. Are you still in contact with her? I asked after learning the former Troll King's name was Charlie. No, dear, she shook her head sadly. Then how do you know where she is? Mary is very knowledgeable. She always knows what is going on, so she must be informed of what is happening right now, and she will definitely show up. What if she doesn't? I frowned, questioning this plan. Well, let's have hope. Grandma looked up into the sky, sighing. We have hope, all right, Flame laughed, pointing towards Hope. Ha ha, very funny. Hope rolled her eyes, smiling. Suddenly, something that looked like a huge raven flew by us, dropping a letter into my dad's hands. Dad tore it open and began reading it. If you want to meet me, come to the place where we have seen each other before. Hint, you stole from me. I took the paper in his hands and read it myself. Why would we steal anything from anyone? My mom wondered aloud. You didn't steal from anyone. It was us, Mom, I declared, making eye contact with Hope, Nyx, Mai, and Flame. What? She gasped from shock. How could you? It was part of our quest. It was the only way. Didn't we steal like 2 times, Delia? Hope reminded us. We did, but I have an idea which one is calling us, I responded casually. What? You stole 3 times? My mom wheezed and fell into her chair with wide eyes. I never thought my child would grow up to be a thief. I think it was the old witch lady we met when we entered the troll world. She was lying about fairies taking her children and grandchildren because the only fairy that ever actually came to the troll world was Grandma before us. She has such good magic. She was able to disguise herself. That does sound like her, Grandma agreed. Then let's go to the troll market, and Grandma, you have to perform an invisibility spell on all of us. I can do an invisibility spell, but only for 3 people right now. Fairies can't perform much in the troll world. We'll help with that, Dad offered. Okay, so Dad and Flame can go as one group, Grandma, Hope, and Mai can go as the second, and Mom and I will go as the third group. Nix can keep an eye on him. I can't trust you completely yet. I pointed towards Charlie. Charlie shrugged. I guess I deserve that. Okay, everyone, I think we are here, Hope said after we crossed the portal back to the troll world and flew past the castle, following the brick path. We were all invisible, and thankfully our wings had regained their full flying strength after the battle. We split up in teams to find Mary's house in the troll market. Mom and I barely talked, and I decided to break the silence. Mom, do I have any siblings? I met her eyes. She looked down for a few seconds and responded, Yes, you do. You have a little brother, and he is just 1 year younger than you. I don't know where he is. Her eyes lit up. He was taken away by the Troll King when he was a baby. But Charlie is better now, so he knows where he is. I know he is safe. Mom's eyes glistened with tears. I have a little brother? Yeah, we could ask Charlie where he is. I tried to cheer Mom up. I spotted a familiar female troll face in the crowd below us, carrying a lot of bags from the market. Mom, that's her, I whispered. Let's go then. She took my hand and we followed her. Mary went into her house and we knocked on the door and gave a signal to the others that we found her. The door opened and she gestured us to come in. We all sat down on a black cushion and looked at each other awkwardly after Mary transformed herself into a short, elderly fairy with hazel eyes and curly chestnut brown hair. I have to make a magical wall in between the troll world and fairyland, right? Yes, how have you been, Mary? Grandma greeted her calmly. I have been lonely. Thank you for asking, she said in a cold voice and petted the raven I saw earlier. People only come to meet me if they need a favor, not because they care for me, including you. I have searched for you everywhere, Mary, but I knew you would only show up if something serious happened and you were the one who chose this life, Grandma said genuinely. I see you even took care of the children. Thank you for that. She thought for a while and smiled. Yes, Grace, I should change my life if I want to see change. She clicked her fingers. I left the note for the invisibility potion and paid for the food you 5 stole. Mom glared at us and I cringed, smiling nervously. The house that was so dark and dull suddenly turned bright and colorful. Let's begin! She hopped off her chair and looked at me. But before I make the wall, don't you have something to do? I nodded, and we started going to the top of the swamp cave. Nix, can you make a stone that is in the shape of a cone? Sure. He looked puzzled. The others understood what I was trying to do. No, don't do it, Delia! Flame grabbed the cone from a confused Nix and handed it to me. I am with you. Thanks. Using the cone, I announced to the trolls, Hello, we fairies come in peace. Not to brag, but we were the ones who actually returned your magic. But it seems like you are getting angry at us, so we have to block the portal between the troll world and fairyland. Please don't come to fairyland, and we won't come to the troll world. We ran to the portal, and Mary created a surge of light. The light started crystallizing into a grand wall made of magic pebbles. Mary, come with us. You don't have to be alone anymore. You can live with us. Grandma lent her a hand. She nodded, a tear slipping out of her eye, and we jumped through the portal before all the magic pebbles formed around it. We landed safely in fairyland, cleaning ourselves from the muck of the swamp when I remembered my little brother. Where is my brother? I grabbed Charlie. I checked to see if he had any magic, but he didn't, so I kept him in the human world. I don't know where he is now," he said nervously. I let go of his shirt and noticed the others were confused. "You have a brother?" Hope asked. "Yeah, my mom told me when we split up," I sniffed. "We'll find him." I felt my grandma's hand on my shoulder, even though she was surprised to hear that she had a grandson. "Come on, let's head back to school." We arrived at the fairy school. "We have a lot to talk about, but we can't right now." My mother took my hands. "Where is our room, Mom? Jacob and I need a shower badly." Mom asked Grandma. "Here, I'll show you, dear." My parents followed my grandma while Hope and I went to our room, our bodies sore and achy from adventure. The moment I hit the bed, I fell asleep.